Now we'll discuss the properties of Z transforms. Properties of Z transforms. So linearity property of Z transform, we have already seen linearity property multiple times for all different kinds of transforms. Now we are going to see linearity property for Z transform. When f of n has Z transform f of z with ROC R1, and then f of 2 has Z transform f2 of z with ROC R2, then the linear combination of f1 and f2 will have a Z transform a1 f1 of z plus a2 f2 f2 of z, and the ROC is going to be intersection of the individual ROCs. Intersection of the individual ROCs. Now the proof is very similar to all of the previous linearity properties, so I'm not discussing it in detail. So this is how the proof goes. I take the Z transform of the linear combination. And now I'm splitting the summation. I'm dividing the present summation into two different summations. Now the first term is nothing but a1 into f1 of z, and the second term is a2 into f2 of z. So this is my linearity property. Next we have time shifting. So time shifting we'll do for bilateral case and unilateral case. So what happens in the bilateral case? So I'll take Z transform of f of n minus n naught, and in place of n minus n naught, I'll substitute y. Right? In place of n minus n naught, I substituted y. So n is equals to y plus n naught, and my limits will now be for y. What will be the limits for y? When n is equals to minus infinity, y is minus infinity. When n is equals to infinity, y is also equals to infinity. Now this term here, I am going to split it into two terms, z to the power minus y and z to the power minus n naught. Since z to the power minus n naught is a constant, I am getting it outside, and whatever is left is nothing but my f of z. It is nothing but my f of z. So this is time shifting property. Time shift f of n minus n naught has a z transform f of z multiplied with z to the power minus n naught. Yeah, this is the bilateral case. Now in case of unilateral z transform or one-sided z transform, what we'll do is we'll consider my f of n to be a causal signal. I'm considering f of n to be a causal signal, right? I'm considering f of n to be a causal signal. Then instead of minus infinite to infinite, I'll have 0 to infinite, right? So this is the formula for my Z transform. I'm now multiplying and dividing, or let me say I'm multiplying with Z to the power minus n naught and Z to the power n naught, right? This doesn't make any difference to the entire expression. Now Z to the power minus n naught, I'm treating it aside, right? I'm taking it outside the summation, and inside the summation I have f of n minus n naught z to the power minus n naught. Now when I'm here substituting n minus n naught is equals to y. When I substitute that, I'll have my limits of y as when n is equals to 0, y is equals to minus n naught, and n is equals to infinity, y is equals to infinity, and f of y z to the power n minus n naught, that is also equals to y, z to the power minus y. Now this is nothing but my y values are from somewhere minus n naught till infinity, right? Now I'm splitting this summation into two summations, one for my negative values of y and one for my positive values of y. So y from 0 to infinity is nothing but my positive values of y, and y from minus n naught till minus 1, right? Till minus 1. So that is going to be the negative values of y. This first term is nothing but f of z. And the second term here, I'm going to make another substitution, that is y is equals to minus I. This is the substitution I'm going to make. So what happens if I make that substitution here? When y is equals to minus n naught, I is going to be equals to n naught. I is going to be equals to n naught. And when y is equals to minus 1, I is going to be equal to 1. I is going to be equal to 1. So my limits for I is 1 to n naught, f of minus I, z to the power I. So so if I'm multiplying this z to the power minus n naught inside, and I'm getting this expression, right? So the time shifting property for a one-sided z transform is f of n minus n naught has a z transform, z to the power minus n naught into f of z plus summation I equals to 1 to n naught f of minus I z to the power minus n naught minus I. Right? Similarly, you can derive the one-sided z transform for f of n plus n naught, and you can verify it to be equal to z power n naught into f of z minus summation I is equals to 0 to n naught minus 1 f of I z to the power n naught minus I. So this you can verify. Now let us substitute some values for n naught. We'll substitute n naught equals to 1, 2 and 3, and we'll look at the z transform of f of n minus n naught and f of n plus n naught. So f of when n naught is equals to 1, then f of n minus 1 will have the one-sided z transform as how much? It's going to be z inverse into f of z inverse into f of z plus when n naught is equals to 1, so summation I is equals to 1 to 1, so value of I is just 1, so f of minus 1 z to the power minus of n naught is 1, so 1 minus 1 is 0, z to the power 0. So this is the one-sided z transform of f of n minus 1. Similarly, for f of n minus 2, the one-sided z transform is going to be z power minus 2 into f of z, right, f of z plus z power minus 1 into f of minus 1 plus f of minus 2 plus f of minus 2. Similarly, for f of n minus 3, what is the z transform? Z transform is z to the power minus 3 f of z plus z to the power minus 2 f of minus 1 plus z to the power minus 1 f of minus 2 plus f of minus 3 f of minus 3, right? F of minus 3. Similarly, if I consider the second z transform pair, it's going to be f of n plus 1 will have z transform z into f of z into f of z minus z into f of z minus here when n naught is equals to 1. That means n 1 minus 1, this becomes 0, and I is equals to 0. That is f of 0 z to the power, this is 1 minus 0, that is 1, that is z to the power 1. So z into f of z minus z into f of 0. Similarly, f of n plus 2 will have the z transform, z square into f of z, z square into f of z minus z square f of 0 minus z into f of 1. So for f of n plus 3, I'll have z cube into f of z minus z cube into f of 0 minus minus z square into f of 1 minus z into f of 2. Like that, you can substitute different values of n and find the one-sided z transform for the time shifted input signal. So these two expressions are very important in solving the difference equations or systems with difference equations, right? At the end of this unit, we'll solve some systems with difference equations. The discrete time systems are described by difference equations. To solve those systems, to find a solution for those systems, these two equations are important, right? So now we'll look at the next property, that is scaling in Z domain. So what happens when we scale the Z domain function? Now, to prove this, I'm going to consider the f of z formula. I'll take the f of z formula. Now, I'll find the z transform for my z naught power n into f of n. Z naught power n into f of n. So what is it equals to? It is equals to summation minus infinite to infinite z naught to the power n f of n into z to the power n. Now I'll combine these two terms, right? Z naught and z. So what happens? Z naught inverse and to the power of z, sorry, z naught inverse into z to the power of minus n. So this is in the form of right, what in place of f of z, if I substitute z by z naught, what happens? Here also I'll have z by z naught, that is nothing but z power minus n, and z naught to the power n, so I can write here as, this is nothing but this entire term, I can write it as z into z naught inverse whole power minus n, that is nothing but this expression. So I can write it as f of z by z naught. I can write it as f of z minus z by z naught, right? So this is the scaling in z domain. If I scale in z domain, what happens in the time domain? That is what this property states. Now, differentiation in z domain. Now I'm going to differentiate in the z domain. What will be the corresponding time domain signal? In case of Laplace transform, what does it state? Minus ft, sorry, minus, okay, that is not necessary here. Laplace transform, let's not do that now. We'll just take the z transform of n into f of n, right? We'll consider z transform of n into f of n. Now we'll multiply the given the right hand side with z and z inverse, right? Z and z inverse, right? If I multiply this with the given term, it makes no difference, right? Z into z inverse is 1. Now minus, I'll take this z outside. And what do I have inside? Inside I have n into f of n, z to the power minus n minus 1, z to the power minus n minus 1. Now I'm introducing a negative sign inside as well as outside. So both of them can cancel and we'll revert to the previous step. So I'm just introducing a negative sign both inside the summation and outside the summation as well. Now this term here is nothing but differentiation of z power minus n. If I differentiate z power minus n with respect to z, what will I get? The power minus n and z to the power n minus n minus 1. So that is what is written here. Differentiation with respect to z of z to the power minus n. So now I'm interchanging my summation and differentiation. What will I get? I am taking this differentiation outside, right? I can interchange the differentiation and summation. So I'm taking the differentiation outside. So inside I have a summation f of n and z to the power minus n. Now this entire term here is nothing but my f of z. So that is equals to minus z d by dz of f of z. So the z transform of n into f of n is nothing but minus z d by dz of f of z. If you multiply your input signal with n, then the z transform for that signal is going to be minus z d by dz of f of z. So this is differentiation in z domain. So what happens if I differentiate it multiple times? If I differentiate this coefficient here minus z d by dz is now to take into the power of m, and the corresponding time domain signal is n to the power m f of n, right? If I do differentiation multiple times, I'm going to multiply my input signal also multiple times with n. That is how I'll do differentiation in z domain. Now first difference. If you remember, we did first difference in DTFT because DTFT is for a discrete time signal. We cannot have integration in time domain, or we cannot have differentiation in time domain. So we'll do first difference. That is for f of n minus f of n minus 1, the z transform is going to be 1 minus z inverse into f of z. So let's prove that. We take z transform of the f of n minus f of n minus 1, and now I'll apply linearity property here and I'll make it two summations, right, for the first term and for the second term, right? Now for the first term is nothing but f of z, and for the second term it is a bilateral transform of time shifting, right? Bilateral time shifting property. For time shifting property, f of n minus 1 is nothing but I mean the z transform is nothing but f of z into z inverse, right? Since it is bilateral, I won't have any other terms, right? Now f of z minus f of z into z power minus 1. I'll take f of z common and I'll get my final z transform. Now accumulation is something similar to integration, right? It is something similar to integration, but since it is a discrete time signal, we cannot perform integration, so we call it accumulation. So accumulation proof goes like this. So the z transform of summation k is equals to minus infinity to n, that is from minus infinity to the present point, we are going to accumulate all the values of f of k, right? We are going to accumulate all the values of f of k. So what is the z transform corresponding to such signal? So I'm going to substitute this function in the z transform definition, minus infinite to infinite, the function multiplied by z inverse. Now I'm going to write this function inside inside the brackets as f of k multiplied by u of n minus k, and now my k is from minus infinite to infinite. This how we write this expression, this term in the brackets, as f of k into u of n minus k summation minus infinite to infinite. We have already discussed this in DTFT. We have discussed this in DTFT, and the similar method we have also discussed in continuous time Fourier transform. There, instead of summation, we had integration, right? The same method we are using now here, and we are writing this term as this term. Now, I'm going to separate these summations, or this entire term here in the brackets, the entire term there in the brackets here is nothing but the convolution summation, right? The convolution summation, discrete time summation for convolution. So that is nothing but u of n convolved with f of n. U of n convolved with f of n. Now, convolution, I have convolution in time domain results in multiplication in z domain, right? In any domain, convolution in one domain results in multiplication in the other domain. So what will I have? I'll have z transform of u of n multiplied with f of z. That is what will be my final answer. Z transform of u of n is 1 by 1 minus z inverse. That we'll see when we calculate the z transform for standard functions in the coming slides. So my z transform of u of n, that is u of z, is multiplied with f of z. So this is my final expression for accumulation property. Accumulation property. Convolution property, convolution in time domain, is nothing but multiplication in frequency domain. We have already seen this proof number of times, so we are not going through this again. You can have a look at this and you can try and solve this. Now we look at time reversal property. Time reversal property. So I'll find the z transform of f of minus n. F of minus n. Now in place of n, I'm going to replace minus p. Right? In place of n, I'm going to replace minus p. And my limits will change accordingly. And now this is nothing but, what is my f of z? What is my f of z? F of z is equals to summation minus infinite to infinite, n minus infinite to infinite, f of n z power minus n. Now, in place of z, if I substitute z inverse, what happens? This will become f of n z to the power n. That is what I have here, right? F of p z to the power p. So the entire thing I can replace it with f of z inverse. F of z inverse. I can replace it with f of z inverse. So that is the z transform for f of minus n. Z transform for f of minus n. And this is the time reversal property. Conjugation is also very similar to what we have proved previously in DTFT, right? This is the conjugation property. And initial value theorem and final value theorem we will discuss. We'll discuss initial value and final value now. Initial value theorem, what are the conditions? F of n must be a causal signal and discrete. It must be a causal discrete signal, and the z transform is given by f of z. Then the initial value f of 0 is given by the expression limit mod z tends to infinity f of z. Limit mod z tends to infinity f of z. We can prove this. I'll take f of z expression. Since my f of n is causal, I'm going to consider n is equals to 0 to infinity. Right? Now I am expanding this right hand side. N equals to 0 means f of 0, then f of 1 into z to the power minus 1, f of 2 into z to the power minus 2, plus and so on. Now I am going to take the limit mod z tends to infinity on both sides. So on my left side becomes limit z tends to infinity f of z equals to, on the right hand side also I have limit z tends to infinity. So what happens if z tends to infinity on the right hand side? This is okay, not, z term is not there, and this is nothing but f of 1 by z and f of 2 by z square and so on. If z tends to infinity, 1 by z becomes, if z tends to infinity, what becomes for 1 by z? 1 by z becomes 0. So all these terms will become 0 and I am only left with f of 0. I'm only left with f of 0. So f of 0 I can write as limit n tends to 0 f of n, right? Limit n tends to 0 f of n. So that is how I can prove the initial value theorem. Initial value theorem is nothing but f of 0 equals to limit mod z tends to infinity multiplied with, sorry, mod z tends to infinity f of z. Similarly, we have the final value theorem, that is f of infinity equals to mod z tends to 1, mod z tends to 1, 1 minus z inverse multiplied with f of z. Now we know this property, right? This is the first difference property. So for that, f of z, z inverse of, so not z inverse, z transform of f of n minus f of n minus 1 I am considering. That is nothing but z transform of f of n and z transform of f of n minus 1. Since my f of n is a causal signal, that is it's only a one-sided signal, I will consider one-sided z transform for f of n minus 1. Right? What is the one-sided z transform of f of n minus 1? F of n minus 1 has the one-sided z transform of z to the power minus 1 into f of z, z to the power minus 1 into f of z, minus, no, plus, I'll have plus f of minus 1. This is the one-sided z transform of f of n minus 1. So I'll replace, I will substitute all those values. So it's going to be f of z minus z inverse of f of z minus f of minus 1, right? Now f of z, if I take common, it's going to be 1 minus f of z inverse, f of z into 1 minus z inverse minus f of minus n. It is nothing but on the right hand side I have this. Now I'll take z tends to 1, right? I'll take limit z tends to 1. So if I substitute z equals to 1 on the right hand side, this expression goes to 1 power anything is 1. Then I'm going to expand this f of n minus f of n minus 1. When n is equals to 0, this term becomes f of 0 minus f of minus 1. When n is equal to 1, it becomes f of 1 minus f of 0. For 2, f of 2 minus f of 1, and so on till the end. Now here what happens is f of 0 gets cancelled with negative f of 0. Similarly, f of 1 gets cancelled with negative f of 1 somewhere here. And then only f of minus 1 and f of n will be remaining, and all other terms will get cancelled, right? All other terms will get cancelled. So the remaining terms are f of minus 1 and f of n. This f of minus 1, and here I have negative of f of minus 1, both of them also will get cancelled. Both of them will also get cancelled. So what is left? My left hand side is limit z tends to 1, 1 minus z inverse of f of z is nothing but on the right hand side I have limit n tends to infinity f of n. So that is my so this is my final final value theorem, right? F of infinity is nothing but limit z tends to 1 minus z inverse f of z. Now let us look at one problem to find the initial value and final value of a given z transform, right? My z transform, this is the question. The z transform is given as z square divided by z minus 1, z square divided by z minus 1 and z minus 2, right? This is the x of z. I have to find the initial value x of 0 and the final value x of infinity, right? These two I have to find. So what is the initial value theorem? It is nothing but x of 0 is equals to limit z tends to infinity f of z. This is the initial value theorem. Now limit z tends to infinity. What is f of z? F of z is z square divided by z minus 1 multiplied with z minus 0.2. Now if I substitute z equals to infinity, I'll get an undefined form, infinite by infinite. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take z square common in the denominator, right? I'll take z square common in the denominator. Z tends to infinity. My numerator is z square. My denominator is, if I take z square common, what do I get? If I take z square common, I'll take z from the first term, that is 1 minus z inverse, and from the second term also I'll take z common. That means I'll get 1 minus 0.2 z inverse, right? 1 minus 0.2 z inverse. Now I'll cancel z square and z square. So what do I have? I have limit z tends to infinity 1 divided by 1 minus z inverse multiplied with 1 minus 0.2 z inverse, right? Now I'll substitute z equals to infinity. Z infinity means 1 by z is going to be z is infinity. So what happens to z inverse? Z inverse goes to 0. So if I substitute z is equals to infinity, what will I have? I'll have 1 divided by 1 minus 0, that is 1, multiplied with 1 minus 0, 1. So my initial value is 1. X of 0 is equals to 1. Now similarly this is equals to 1. Now we'll do the final value theorem, where we'll have to find x of infinity. What is x of infinity? X of infinity equals to limit z tends to 1, 1 minus z inverse into f of z. 1 minus z inverse into f of z. Now limit z tends to 1, 1 minus z inverse. What is f of z? z square divided by z minus 1 into z minus 2.2. Now let me simplify this equation. Now if I take z common here, if I take z common from the denominator, what will happen? If I take z common, in the numerator I have 1 minus z inverse and z square. In the denominator I have z minus 0.2, as it is I am leaving. Now z minus 1 I am writing as z into 1 minus z inverse, right? Now these two terms will get cancelled and z square will get cancelled. I have z by z minus 0.2. So if I substitute 1, I'll get 1 by 1 minus 0.2. That is 1 by 0.8. That is nothing but 1.25. So this is my final value theorem. This is my final value theorem. So this is how we have to apply initial value and final value theorem.